All right, we are live. All right, everyone, welcome back. It is a little before, what is it? It's like 11:38 on Wednesday, March 11th, and we are picking up work on our act relating to emergency management. And we are going to have testimony from Barbara Neal, who is the co-chair of Vermont Public Safety Communication Task Force. I am going to hand the table over to Representative Hango, as she has been the primary shepherd of this policy conversation, working on this legislation. So, Representative Hango, the table is yours, and I am going to be present, but I am going to be over at that side table.
Great. Thank you very much and welcome, Barbara. Nice to see you again. Thanks for being here.
Likewise, nice to see you.
So this morning you've been asked to testify about a few things. So if you're prepared, go right ahead.
I am, and thanks for having me back. For the record, I'm Barbara Neal, Executive Director of the 911 Board and also co-chair of the Public Safety Communications Task Force. As you mentioned, I'm here really with both hats on today, but I will start as co-chair of the task force. And I have some quick suggestions for the current language that I saw and I am looking at draft 2.3, if that's still the current one. Okay.
It is.
I think these are quick suggestions. I think quick fixes should you try or should you decide to take them up. On page 15, starting at line 17, where there's discussion about authorizing the use of monies appropriated and held in reserve for the purpose of procuring or to procure and install equipment for the purpose of building out a computer-aided dispatch system for public safety communications. I would recommend that you insert the word multidisciplinary before the words computer-aided dispatch in order to clarify that the end result here must be a system or a product that serves and supports all first responders, not just one. So we want to be able to serve the law enforcement community and also fire and EMS communities with this computer-aided dispatch solution.
Thank you. We did hear that yesterday from EMS that was really important to them. So thank you for picking up on that.
Yes, absolutely. Also, I noticed that the language right now says or specifies procurement and installation of equipment for the computer-aided dispatch system. So the system would consist of equipment, yes, and also software and other components. So I'm not quite sure what the right word is there, but I feel like equipment is too narrow.
What line are you on, please?
Sorry, let's see. I am on now page 16. At the very first line, it says install equipment for the purpose of building out. Okay.
And that's where you want multidisciplinary inserted on line 1. Is that correct? Before
Correct.
Computer-aided dispatch?
Right. So a broadening of the term equipment to include the whole solution, right? And then multidisciplinary at the end of line 1 before computer-aided dispatch.
So do you have a suggestion for a word other than equipment?
Install, I would say procure and install a multidisciplinary computer-aided dispatch solution or system would probably cover it. It's the word equipment that's bothering me because it's very specific to, in my view, hardware.
For a second, to procure and install a multidisciplinary computer-aided dispatch system. So if we just take out the words equipment for the purpose of.
I think that would do it, yes.
Sorry. To procure and install. So we would have to take out equipment for the purpose of building out.
Yeah, that's a suggestion. Right, and you might even want to consider changing the word install to implement. So to procure and implement a multidisciplinary computer-aided dispatch system for public safety communications.
That much better.
Okay, Rep. Coffin had a suggestion.
Never mind, that kind of solved what I was gonna say.
Okay. So we're thinking about to procure and implement a multidisciplinary computer-aided dispatch system for public safety communications.
That's much nicer. Smooth. It flows better.
And we'll have to, when we have our next witness, we'll ask if that, is also the lines they're thinking of as well. All right, go ahead.
Okay, and then additionally here in this sentence that we're talking about, this appears to limit the use of the remaining funds only to the CAD recommendation, the computer-aided dispatch recommendation. Yet in the next section, part
Section B.
yes, it directs the task force to continue to meet and to advise the Department of Public Safety on executing the task force recommendations. So those recommendations have price tags that it would be good to be able to use these funds for. And the way it's written now seems to me to limit the use of those funds only to CAD.
Let me just read this quickly. And can you tell me why you think it limits it to only the CAD? Is it because of section A?
Yes, because of section A, starting on the page 15 at line 17, the General Assembly authorizes the use of any monies appropriated or held in reserve for the and then all of the citations to the earlier legislation, for the Department of Public Safety to procure and install or implement, we've decided, a multidisciplinary computer-aided dispatch system.
Okay, so if I can interrupt, we are working on some language that House Appropriations has asked for to be more specific about what dollar amounts in round general numbers would be used for specific projects for the built out and to move forward. So we're waiting on language that would help us with that, and maybe that will help clarify.
Excellent. And when do you need that by?
I would love to see it by the end of today sometime.
That could be tough, although we can get you some. Let me get to work on that after this testimony. We had provided in the original recommendations a plan for the remainder of that $11 million that had been originally appropriated to expend those funds over a number of projects over a 3-year period. Now, if you're not going to take up governance, the funds that were allocated, if you will, to that can be placed somewhere else. I can meet with the chairs and give some guidance on these numbers back to you sooner rather than later. We meet again with the task force next Wednesday. They may have input that we can provide at that time too. But we can get you those numbers.
I appreciate that very much. I know this is probably unusual, but in the gallery, we have Deputy Commissioner and Co-Chair Dan Batesy, and he has already started working on this and plans to, and correct me, sir, if I'm misspeaking for you, but plans to consult with you and the task force on this later today.
Excellent.
And the timeline for us is if we are to include this in the bill, and enabling language does need to happen this legislative session, it has to be by Friday for us to put it out. So anything that the task force comes up with next week could certainly be brought to House Appropriations, because they'll be hearing this bill next week. And then also there's the opportunity in the Senate where I'm sure they're going to have everybody come back in and testify to them. And as this is a really rapidly moving um, piece of legislation and it's changing so fast. I feel like the Senate probably will make a significant number of changes to this, and you will
Okay.
have the opportunity to do so there.
Okay,
The intent here is just to start the process to enable someone to move forward to continue to try to solve issues that really are very complex. So thank you. So
Great.
we'll work on the budget language tomorrow. How does that sound?
okay. I will get with Deputy Commissioner Batesy after this.
Thank you.
Okay. So I did have also just a little bit of higher level feedback. I just want to reiterate that a main objective for the task force has been to identify an effective framework within which the necessary focused and foundational work can be conducted to improve public safety landscape in Vermont, while also creating an environment in which credibility and trust can continue to be developed within the stakeholder community. So we note that the task force recommendation for governance is not included in this draft language. I just simply, and I understand the deadlines, the important critical deadlines that you're working with to advance this language. But I just wanted to note that the task force does stand by our earlier recommendation on governance, while also recognizing these critical deadlines, of course. So
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I appreciate you understanding the timelines.
mhm. Yeah, we do. Okay, and my next note was about the budget numbers, so we've already discussed that, and we'll get you some firmed up numbers hopefully later today. And unless there's other questions for me on this part of it, I can switch to my 911 role now with some feedback on another section.
Let's see, anybody at the table have any questions about the words on the page and what Ms. Neal has said about them? Rep. Pincinel,
So are we gonna leave section B the way it is, or do we?
for now,
Okay.
yes, we are, because we need more specific dollar amounts and what they're going to be used for and a timeline that they're going to be used in.
Okay,
And by specific, I mean really round numbers, but House Appropriations really wants to know what the plan is for that money going forward. And I'll say this on the record, because if it isn't used next year, they will not allow it to sit. They will use it for some other purpose. And they've been very clear that they're giving us another year to work on this and come up with a reasonable plan with measurable outcomes throughout the year. And something has to happen, or they're going to take this money and use it for something else, to be very
been talked
blunt.
about for several years now.
Yeah, okay, thank
Right.
you. Any other questions for Ms. Neal on the words on the page?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the other portion is something we heard really briefly about in testimony with regards to H 901, the pieces that we're attempting to put into this bill that refers to individuals with disabilities and other needs. And there was something that came up that I had not heard about, the E911 Board Care Program. So if you could please tell us about that, because the main
Sure.
thing that we're trying to understand in this committee is how to identify individuals who need extra assistance during an emergency. And I think that's the biggest sticking point. Is there a registry? Is there not a registry? If it's voluntary, how would we scoop up all the people who needed to be taken care of? So if you could explain what this is all about, that would be much appreciated.
Sure. So the CARE program, CARE stands for the Citizens Assistance Registry for Emergencies. So it is a platform that the 911 board supports through which individuals can self-register and identify any specific needs they might have in the event of a wide-scale event like an evacuation or an isolation or a power outage. The information that they provide is housed in our data, and it can be released at the request of a first responder or a town's emergency manager or Vermont Emergency Management during an event or in preparation for an imminent event as they're planning. The purpose is to identify the names and locations and needs so that first responders, specifically first responders, can effectively plan their response, any rescue needs, any specialized type of equipment they might need or need to be aware of. So the program's been in existence for quite some time now. It has not been without its challenges in terms of really public awareness has been a challenge, and even awareness within the responder community. So we don't get a lot of requests for the information. There are right now just over 400 registrants in the program. And as I read the draft language on page 14, starting at line 1, that language, in my view, would disallow this CARE program. Okay, all right, so I'm understanding that correctly. So my concern, I mean, I've got a number of concerns around that, and I also need to educate myself more on the reasons why some believe it ought to be disallowed. So I've got a little homework to do on that. But in the meantime, there are 400 registrants in this program. And my concern would lie in how they could or would be supported should the CARE program be taken down. We also have 2 similar data sets that I'll need to carefully review to see how or if they comply with this part of the legislation as well. I'll continue to have conversations on this with my colleagues at Vermont Emergency Management. I've already begun some of those discussions to fully understand the impact. And then I'll stop right there. Did I answer your question about the CARE program itself?
Yeah, so I think you're correct that there is very little awareness of this program, that it exists. And we certainly I don't think would want to disallow something that's already been active and has 400 registrants. It sounds like we need more public service announcements about it, more awareness in the community, and in particular with the first responder community.
Yes, and we have been working very closely with emergency management to get that word out to the first responder community and the emergency managers in towns. And in very recent conversations, in fact, for some public outreach opportunities that they have coming up. So we've kind of put things on hold for a minute to see what happens with this. But we'll continue those conversations. I had hoped to be able to listen to all of the earlier testimony on this part of the bill. I think on this part of the bill, I was only able to catch about 10 minutes of your very first witness. And she mentioned the telephone company program where people could identify that they were deaf or deafblind or blind. And there are other disabilities or situations that can be identified in that program. We refer to that as the Disability Designation Program. It applies only to wireline phone records. Anybody who did register for it in years past and still has a landline phone, that information would display to a call taker when a 911 call was placed from that phone. Since most people have migrated, well, I shouldn't say, but since many people have migrated away from landline phones, we now have another program, which we call Supplemental Alley, which allows us to attach similar type of information and even broader information to a cell phone number or a VoIP telephone number so that that information can also be available to a call taker when a call comes in. That is those 2 things are actually some of the data sets that I would want to review if this if this piece of the legislation advances. It seems pretty clear to me that the disability designation would be a registry that wouldn't comply. The supplemental alley, there is some information in there that identifies a disability or a need. And there's other things that are specific to caller or responder safety. Right. So I can think of an example from years past. I don't know that this record is still in there, but there was a notation about, the household had 7 dogs and they were in this part of the house or something, so that the better service could be provided to anyone that's calling from that house. And responders were aware of that particular situation. So, I think there certainly would be impacts to the care program. There would be impacts probably to supplemental alley and the disability designation. And I would also be concerned about other registries that might be in existence that I don't even know about, that serve a similar function.
Yeah, so the Vermont Center for Independent Living testified this morning. And I feel like maybe they're not registries, but they certainly know of individuals who need assistance in emergency situations. So I think it's very piecemeal, and I do feel that it's important to bring organizations like that into the fold so they can participate in what I think is probably an already existing program, the E911 care program. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And I'm feeling like the language about the disallowing the registry is problematic for the E911 care program as well. So we'll take a look at that. Does anybody have questions about this portion for Ms. Neal? Okay. Anything further that you would like to tell us about any other part of the bill? Or any other thoughts?
I focused primarily on that. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to both of those things today. I will follow up with the deputy commissioner and we'll be back in touch with you on the numbers.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. So
that's great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that this draft came out late and you were able to look at it and you had some thoughts that you could share with us. This is definitely a work in progress and a partnership, I hope, that we can continue.
Sounds good.
So
Yes,
thank you very much.
All right.
And let's see, we are at noon. So I think, barring anything else, Deputy Commissioner, did you have anything you needed to say to us at this moment? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we're back here at 1 o'clock to talk about our OPR bill.